Complexity is everywhere. Instead of avoiding challenges or fearing failure, I've learned that you have to focus on what you can control. In work and in life, when that noise and chaos try to creep in, I choose to stay true to myself and remember who I love. That's how I control complexity.
We are back with another episode of Hacker Valley Red, where we are exploring the offensive side of cybersecurity and humanity with a hacker's mindset. Again, I'm one of your hosts. I'm Chris Cochran.
And I'm Ron Eddings, and I'm excited to continue this topic of cybersecurity legends. We have many legends we're going to be speaking to throughout this season and on previous seasons of Hacker Valley Red. And this episode, we're going to be speaking about red and blue teams uniting.
Yes, red and blue teams uniting. And in order to talk about uniting, we have to talk about the origins of red teaming. I got my start in red teaming early on in my military career, but it was a little different because we were focused on being a red cell. This is when you are pretending to be the enemy so that the blue forces, the good people, can make decisions and take actions to defeat the red side. So if you really look at its origins, it really started back in the 70s with the Air Force, being able to pretend to be the enemy forces, whether you're talking about cybersecurity or you're talking about combat.
It's crazy to think back and just, know where that term comes from, red teaming as a whole. And for me, it wasn't from the military that I learned about red teaming. I know that you were in the United States Marine Corps. What I learned about when I learned about red teaming was when I met my first hackers. I met, a few hackers early in my life, and they let me know that there is this thing called offensive operations. So I thought offensive operations and red teaming were the same thing. But they're not quite. I feel like there's definitely some differences when it comes to offensive ops versus red teams. And what I would say the difference is red teams can be hired by a company. They might be working on a team with blue teamers. Offensive operators, that might not be the case. They might be hired by a nation state to perform operations. They might be hired by a bug bounty program. They're not necessarily part of your red team. And it almost blurs into the line of penetration testing too. But I think, we can go on and on about what red teaming is and what red teaming is not. But, there's definitely differences between offensive operations and red teams.
Absolutely. When you look at red teaming, you're really looking for the holes in a particular program. You're trying to meet an objective. So let's really break down the purpose of a red team. The purpose of a red team is really to find the weaknesses. They're looking for any crack or crevice in order to meet that objective, whether they're looking to touch a specific center of gravity or a critical asset, or they're looking to take the information from a data store or a database. So that's what really the red teams are. They're trying to emulate maybe an enemy, any enemy, or maybe they're trying to emulate a specific enemy. When we think about threat intelligence, one of the great things about threat intelligence is we look at the attack chain, like what exactly do certain APTs do in order to emulate that specific enemy. So then you're able to emulate this specific attack vector on your network and see what it looks like. And when you can do that, that means that you're saying, okay, this is a potential APT that's going to be coming after us. Maybe they've gone after a sister organization. Maybe they've gone after someone that you know. And so when you emulate that attack, you can prepare for it.
One of the words that you say that make people twitch is that word red team. People sometimes feel a little itchy when they hear that a red team is coming in or a red team is being hired, but they also might feel a little itchy and weird when they hear the term threat intelligence. And you spend a lot of time as a threat intelligence analyst. So where would you say red teams have gone wrong from looking at uniting the red side and the blue side? Threat intelligence, I feel like, is a mix of both that can provide a true value to both sides, red and blue.
100%. When I used to help lead purple teams, I always said that threat intelligence helps set the context for a purple team engagement. They supply the red team with the attacks, the techniques, the procedures that other APTs are executing against in the real world. And so also then you feed that information to the blue side to say, hey, this is what's going on out here. We might want to make sure that we have the critical controls in order to mitigate some of these threats. But that's really where threat intelligence lies.
What about the opportunities or the missed opportunities that you've seen from red teams? What can we give back as a lesson learned from a threat intelligence expert to someone that is really interested in using that to help their red team engagement?
One of the absolute biggest things that is missed from time to time when it comes to red teams is that communication piece. Taking the information that has been gleaned from a red team or from offensive operations and being able to give that information to the blue side to say, hey, these are all the things that we did to execute this attack, put them in priority order and help close them. That sometimes that communication is missed. And that's why for this specific season, we have PlexTrack in the building to support this entire season. And PlexTrack is really focused on helping folks talk about these operations, have that communication line between the red and the blue team. This is really where it starts to mix in the purple, because a lot of times when you're on the red side, all you want to do is you just want to execute. You want to find the holes. You want to pop the boxes. You want to have that objective be met. But it's really important to take that information in a way that's digestible for the rest of the team. So Ron, I know you've spent a lot of time on the red side. What would you do with something like PlexTrack when it comes to executing your operation and then getting that information to the people that need it?
I will honestly want a platform, a solution, even a strategy. I would take a strategy to take bits of information from both sides of the house, because there's a lot of opportunity that blue teamers can have when working with a red team member. For example, they can pull in information about previous engagement. What were the findings? What were the holes and the gaps? Typically, we get this in the form of a spreadsheet or a document, and that is devastating. And I'll tell you that because what are you going to do with it? Are you going to put that spreadsheet into your EDR solution or another solution and have it digest that report and those findings?
Right.
Not really. We don't really have that. And that's exactly what PlexTrack helps with. It helps with pulling in this information, making it actionable, that the findings that the red team gives you makes it actionable, and also gives you that accountability. When things weren't actioned upon, how do you be sure that you go back to it? So with that being said, not only is PlexTrack a sponsor, but they are also a friend. They had me going on and on about how great the solution is, but I'll leave it to you to check them out. Visit plextrack.com/Hacker Valley. That is plextrac.com/Hacker Valley.
And also be sure to check it out down in the show notes below. But we're going to continue this conversation about what is often missed when it comes to integrating the red side with the rest of your cybersecurity program. The other thing that is often missed is the planning stage of a red team. Really good red teamers know that half the battle, probably 80% of the battle, is the plan that goes into a specific red team engagement. You have to understand the scope. You have to understand that you have to get buy-in from specific folks. Obviously, some things are going to be secret. You don't want everyone to know that you're having a red team, but you have to have the right stakeholders accountable for understanding the scope. When is something going to happen? Timing is important when it comes to a red team. What is inbounds? What is out of bounds? Understanding all of these tactics or understanding all of these concepts within a red team is really, really important if you're going to meet the mark for whatever you're trying to do.
So let's go ahead and speak to someone that we would consider a legend in the game, not just a legend because of his skills as a pen tester or an offensive operator. He's a legend because he has united the red side of the house and the blue side of the house. Our guest is Davin Jackson. He is the host of Hacker Valley Blue, but also an offensive operator. He does pen testing by day and podcasting by night on his another show that he has called InfoSec Unplugged. So without further ado, let's jump right into our conversation with Davin.
So I am Davin Jackson, also known as DJax Alpha on Twitter. Like these gentlemen said, I am a pen tester and an AppSec engineer, mainly in the API space right now, API and web applications. Been doing this now for about 15, 16 years. Started off from the bottom, like Circuit City Fire Dog desktop technician. So I'm showing my age a little there. But you know, dad, husband, U.S. Air Force veteran. And like I said, trying to just trying to make it in this world.
Looking back at your entire journey, what is it like to look back at seeing where you were and where you're at today?
So I do that fairly often because, you know, we all struggle with this thing that we call imposter syndrome. I look at it as, look how far I came. You know, it's literally, I jumped into tech with no computer, right? We couldn't afford a computer at the time. That's why I went to Circuit City and was using the client's computers to get that experience. So to see how you come up, not just from a socioeconomic standpoint, but just your knowledge, just where you are now, just the fact that I'm here on a podcast talking to you two gentlemen and you referred to me as a legend, like 12, 13, 14 years ago, I'm in the living room of my 1-bedroom apartment going, where's the CMOS battery? You know?
Right. Yeah.
It's amazing to see. And then it's also a testament of two things I tell people all the time. Always bet on yourself and do the work. You know, because we've all been there. You work in a field that, you know, we all understand it, but maybe not everybody in our immediate circle does. So I can't go to like some of my friends and say, man, I'm having this problem. I know that there's this exploit here, but I just can't crack it, or I'm struggling with this code review. They're looking at you like you're speaking a different language. And
Right.
it gets lonely, especially when you're in the building yourself phase, right? When you're trying to build that and study for your certifications, and, you know, your friends might still want to go party, or, you know, everybody's doing something else and you're stuck here because you want to get to that next place. You know, it gets lonely, it gets frustrating. Like I said, it's hard. It will bother you physically or mentally because you just don't have anyone to share it with. You keep pushing, and eventually, you know, good, like everything else with consistency, it pays off.
Yep. It's going to lead to something. And hopefully whatever it is, you know, closer and closer to where you want to end up. One of my favorite books of all time is The Alchemist. And in The Alchemist, the whole story is about the main character following clues that success is leaving him. And he runs into these wise men and women, and then they leave him strategies. And that's one of the things I've learned throughout this field even is, you know, success will leave you clues, and the experts, they'll leave you strategies. What clues did you pick up along the way that really helped you break out of, you know, this previous life? You know, you talked about socioeconomic differences. That's a big thing to really, I guess, acknowledge, is that you were able to take it from nothing and then really make it into something. What clues and strategies do you think really helped lead you there?
One of the things that I harp on all the time is the consistency. And you have to have, you know, self-control and discipline, because, you know, you will run into situations where you run into people who, I guess they say they chase the bag or whatever. And that's fine and well. But if you don't, you know, take care of things that you need to take care of, or you don't take care of yourself professionally and stay on top of it, you know, that's going to be short-lived, right? You know,
Yeah.
it's one thing to get it. It's another to maintain it and keep it and increase it. One of the things that I've learned along the way that's very strategic is, you know, taking that time to, you know, read up on different things, or read up on what's going on in the world. I mean, a lot of people don't want to keep up with cybersecurity stuff off hours, but it's necessary. You know, when new exploits come out, you know, try to figure out why that happened and what you can do to add that to your arsenal for, you know, looking for that vulnerability. Practice, you know, lab work. You know, these are all things that you can do that aren't, you know, really difficult or, you know, hard to find. And then the other thing is networking. One of my biggest failures I think, in my career was when I first started and they tell you to find a mentor. I tried and I failed. I reached out to a bunch of different people and no one responded. And I just took that like Michael Jordan, that meme where it's like, I just took it personally.
Yeah.
And I just went for so long. And I'm like, I don't need anybody. And I just, I was grinding and I'm like, I'm going to make you see me. I'm going to make you notice me. And then it wasn't until maybe about 2-3 years ago where it was just like, all right, let me try networking again. And then I met some amazing people. I met you gentlemen, Marcus J. Carey, who played a big role, in even having these conversations that I do today. He's the one that kind of pulled me to the side and just said, maybe they wanted to see what you were going to bring to the table first, or, maybe they were busy. And then I stopped to think about it. And I'm like, well, yeah, obviously there was something that I saw in them that made me say, I would love to learn from them. When I started doing like my blog and, sharing certain things that I was doing, I remember thinking back to Davin 8-9 years ago. So now when people try to reach out to me, I'm like, I might not be able to respond. So now I write blog posts or I write Twitter threads or something of questions that I wish someone would have told me coming up. So this way I might not be able to answer you physically right there on the spot, but I can say, hey, go check out this video I did, or go check out this blog I wrote. I think that'll answer your questions. And then, if I can help you after that, let me know and we can set up a time.
Absolutely. One thing I got to ask you about being born and bred on the offensive side of cybersecurity, and now you've been forced into this situation where you have to talk and listen with an empathetic ear to people on the blue side, because a lot of folks get this mentality of like, oh, it's always red versus blue, right? Always coming at each other. But what has been some of the things that you've learned so far just having these deep, empathetic conversations with folks?
We have a lot of the same feelings towards certain things. So on the offensive side or from the pen testing side of things, a lot of people get frustrated, with all the red tape that gets involved with a pen test, or you might deal with a client that does like a lot of scope creeping. So, this is the scope when you started, but then halfway through the assessment, they realize, nope, it's this, because they can't fix the issue that you found or whatever the reason may be. A lot of blue teamers, they deal with a lot of the same issues where they have to kind of get through a lot of red tape and have a bunch of meetings about another meeting that they had before they can even get to the keyboard. They have a lot of the same concerns that we do when it comes to, finding vulnerabilities and fixing them and remediating them. There's actually reason why they don't patch certain things. There's some where they can't because it might break something else, or when dealing with ICS systems, they are outdated and obsolete on purpose, because if you do that, you're going to risk breaking a multi-million-dollar machine that's going to take down some key critical infrastructure, so getting their perspectives on things and giving them a voice to kind of speak to some of the trials and tribulations that they face in the field has definitely been a breath of fresh air. It's been definitely enlightening. And yeah, it was a challenge because coming from that, offensive side, at first, you don't even know what to ask, right? Outside of, so what do you do? And what's that like? But it was really cool just kind of hearing it and hearing some of the things that they go through and certain things that excite them. Like as a pen tester, our biggest thing is, when we pop a shell or we gain access and we elevated privileges and now we have complete control of a system, they have that same exciting feeling on the other side, like in DFIR, when they're able to put all the pieces together to the puzzle. Now they can form a timeline of events. I hope to hear more stories from them and like I said, and enlighten them, because they, truth be told, they don't get a lot of credit. Red, when you hear about cybersecurity, it's all, a lot of the red team stuff. Like that's the sexy side of the cybersecurity world. And, they don't get a lot of the love and admiration that they should. So it's been a great experience hosting Hacker Valley Blue.
We're going to ask you for a little bit more advice because in this season, we're going to be going deep on the red side. We're obviously going to talk to legends. We're going to speak to one of the founding members on the red side. We're going to be talking to the legends in the making, people that are up and coming, the difference makers, the folks that are making a social impact on the cybersecurity side. We're going to be accelerating innovation. Who are the folks that are thinking about all the things that we haven't even thought of yet? We're going to be talking to folks that are creating a new future. They're looking so far ahead that they're starting right now to change the way we operate in cybersecurity. And of course, impact and awareness. How do we make everyone more aware of what we're doing in this realm of offensive cybersecurity and the like? And then, of course, we're going to wrap it all up with a bow, with a retrospective, looking at what we've learned along the way. But we got to ask you, you're the expert now because you've been on that side where you're talking to people that don't do what you do. You're asking different questions, giving it different perspectives. What would you recommend to us as we embark on this next Hacker Valley season? What piece of advice do you have for us to be the best interviewers that we can be?
Learn from your guests. Learn from your guests. You interview and you have your questions lined up, but there might be a couple gems that get dropped along the way. It's a reciprocal experience. So yes, you're asking questions and interviewing, and yes, they're answering, but there are certain things along the way that you might not have known. Like I said, with Hacker Valley Blue, there's a lot of things and a lot of lessons that I did not necessarily know, even with all my experience. You clearly you're calling them legends for a reason. So just learn from your guests and apply that.
Absolutely. Great advice. Davin, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to hop on the mics with us. For the folks out there that want to keep up to date with you, your world, and all the content that you're putting out there, what are the best ways for people to do that?
Oh, man. So I am djax_alpha on Twitter and on Instagram. I have alphacybersecurity.tech. That is my blog site where I post content. I have some new content on the way coming. And then I also have a YouTube channel, Alpha Cybersecurity on YouTube, and I host InfoSec Unplugged every Thursday live at 6 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you tune in. Yeah, I just interview different people from all over, and we talk about our experiences and share whatever advice we can give to the listeners and the viewers, because it is a video podcast. Yep. So yeah, find me there, djax_alpha and alphacybersecurity.tech.
Each time that we speak to Davin, I know he's going to be dropping nuggets. He's going to be feeling inspired and motivated, fired up. And I think that's what actually makes, someone a legend, is this feeling of excitement, this feeling of passion, not just passion to do what they want, but passion to see it through to the end. Because it's easy to get started, but it's hard to complete, whether it be red teaming, blue teaming, or just looking at this game of cybersecurity as a whole, because it's never ending and we're always learning something.
What's incredible about listening to Davin's story, or really any legend in the game, is that they don't quit. Obviously, everyone starts from somewhere. They have to start at some level, and they're going to make mistakes, but they continue to develop their craft and move forward. And that's really what mastery is. We talk about mastery like it's this destination, and it isn't. Mastery is a path. Mastery is a journey that you continue down. If you think about a heavyweight champion in boxing or a champion in the UFC, they can be the champion one day and then the next day not be the champion because they made a mistake. Maybe they got lazy, or maybe someone better just came along. But as long as you're moving forward towards this path of mastery, you're getting better every single day. That's really where mastery comes from. And the exact same is true in cybersecurity, and especially on the offensive side.
So let's go ahead and wrap this up with a bow. What would you describe to be a legend? What is that secret sauce for, someone becoming a legend, especially when you look at uniting the red and blue? I think Davin's a great example, but I want to hear even more from what you got.
A legend is about impact. It's about impact in your community. And when we look at legends in cybersecurity, we look at legends on the red side, we really look at people that we aspire to be. We look at the folks that have made a path for others to walk down. We look at the folks that make us better by giving us their wisdom and making the mistakes that we don't have to make in the future. That's really what legends are. They're the folks that are walking down the path, showing us the light in terms of knowledge and experience and all the things that is great in cybersecurity. So that's what a legend is to me. What about you?
The legend is, it's a word that you actually asked me on about, I think it was the third episode of Hacker Valley Studio. You asked me, what legacy do you want to leave?
Yep.
And what it really boils down to is a legend is leaving a legacy that is going to touch and empower the lives of many. A legend in cybersecurity is going to be someone that is going to do something legendary that cements their legacy across the world, whether it be in a book, whether it be in an amazing video, or a talk that you have with another team member. That might make you a legend in someone's eyes. I think it's all about the legacy.
We are so excited. We are still just getting started with this season. We have more guests to come. We have more conversations to have, and it's going to be exciting. If you found any value in this whatsoever, feel free to share it. Feel free to like it, comment, jump into our Discord, have a conversation with us. The link to the Discord is down in the show notes below. We would love to hear from you, and we will see you in the next episode.